The dignified old man approaches them, and then Chu Tianlong and Chu Bingyu greet him as father and grandpa. Chu Jianfeng then turns to Yi Chen and asks if he's the expert who saved Chu Bingyu. Yi Chen answers yes, while Chu Jianfeng asks which senior taught him all of that. Yi Chen honestly admits that he has no teacher, and he only learned the bare minimum when it comes to medical-related things. Then, Chu Jianfeng offers an official stamp of the Han Dynasty to thank Yi Chen. Looking at the official stamp, Yi Chen easily identifies it as a fake one. Although it's fake, it seems that Chu Jianfeng doesn't know about this, so he decides that he will save his life too. Yi Chen then points out the hidden illness within Chu Jianfeng and says that he'll be able to treat that for another time. Hearing this, Chu Jianfeng is shocked that Yi Chen can see through his illness. He then explains that he didn't tell anything about this to his family, because he doesn't want it to affect them. Chu Tianlong says that he's willing to fulfill any of Yi Chen's requirements, while Chu Bingyu begs Yi Chen to save her grandpa. Yi Chen says that a more detailed checkup is needed, but he'll do his best. Chu Tianlong then decides to buy the company that Yi Chen was doing his internship with and gives it to him. Chu Bingyu immediately did the order, and Yi Chen gladly accepted it. At night, Yi Chen thinks about the illness of Chu Jianfeng that might be the cause of demonic items, and that it might be the one to cause the poison in Chu Bingyu. Before Yi Chen opens the door, Ning Qiyi opens it and welcomes him. Ning Qiyi complains about Yi Chen being away, so he says that she can sleep in the guest house. She then angrily walks towards her room. In his room, Yi Chen decides to raise his realm quickly. Meanwhile, Ning Qiyi comes in and tries to wake him up. In the morning, Dr. Chen appears and asks Ning Qiyi if that is Yi Chen's house. Ning Qiyi confirms that it's Yi Chen's house and says that she'll call him. Just then, Yi Chen appears and asks Ning Qiyi if she doesn't have work today. She then takes off her apron and says that she'll be going to film a commercial. After she leaves, Dr. Chen shows Yi Chen the ingredients of the pill. Yi Chen then asks for a paper and pen, as he fulfills the promise he made to Dr. Chen to teach him something. He then bids his farewell to Dr. Chen since he has things to do now. In his room, Yi Chen starts making the gold quality medicine pill. As he starts the pill making, the ingredients start to break down and slowly converge into a pill, a common level spiritual pill. After refining the pill, he concludes that the spiritual energy in it is enough to help him break through the 5th level of Kai refining. As he consumes the pill, it slowly integrates into his body, and it fills him with a huge amount of energy. Eventually, he reached the 6th level of his current cultivation realm, which amazes him. After tidying himself, he decided to go to the company and check on Ning Qiyi's filming progress. Just then, he notices that Dr. Chen is groveling, so he asks him what he's doing. Dr. Chen looks up and says that Yi Chen is indeed a god. Just a small glimpse of what he wrote already enlightened him a lot. He then added that he's willing to respect him as a teacher, and he'll do anything for him. Yi Chen calmly lifts his tea and says that it's just some opinion of his in the medical field. He then tells him to get up since he's already old, and says that if Dr. Chen has any questions he can ask him right now. In Jiaran Food Inc., Zhu Ming, the former chairman, says that the company is Yi Chen's property from now on. He then tells him that the news about him being the chairman should be kept as a secret. Zhu Ming asks why, and Yi Chen says that it's his way to know the behavior of the staff in the company. As he walks out, Yi Chen encounters Manager Chen and he immediately scolds Yi Chen. Manager Chen says that Yi Chen is fired, but Yi Chen just mocks him. Manager Chen calls the HR to fire Yi Chen, but the person in HR says that Yi Chen can't be fired. Manager Chen then embarrassingly looks at Yi Chen and says that he'll be giving him a chance since it's his first time being late. He then walks away and angrily thinks that after Ning Qiyi is done with the commercial he will throw him away. Meanwhile, Yi Chen received a call from his dad. His dad asks about his internship and if he already ate. Then, the dad says that Aunt Zhang called him to say that Yi Chen visited them. He then tells Yi Chen his purpose of calling, which is to talk about Deng Lingxiu. After talking to his father, he visits Aunt Zhang's apartment with apples. His dad wants him to tutor Deng Lingxiu. He thinks that his father set him up. He thinks that compared to his last life, this present life is like a sweet misfortune. After he knocks, Aunt Zhang enthusiastically welcomes him. Yi Chen then notices that Uncle Deng seems to be in a hurry. Uncle Deng explains that he'll be interviewing the manager who's in charge of how a small company acquired Ning Qiyi. Uncle Deng wishes Yi Chen good luck in tutoring Deng Lingxiu, and he'll treat him later. Yi Chen asks Aunt Zhang if Deng Lingxiu is at home. Aunt Zhang says that she's in her room, and then says that he would slice apples for them. As Yi Chen enters Deng Lingxiu's room, she immediately says that she only agrees with the tutoring since she can't win against her mom. Deng Lingxiu tells him that he has to promise her 3 things, and Yi Chen says he's listening. She says that the first one is that he can't talk about anything outside of education. Second is that I-Chen can't touch anything in the room, especially her. And lastly, I-Chen shouldn't fall in love with her. I-Chen agrees to all of it, and says that he's not interested in anything about her anyway. Hearing this, Deng Lingsu feels offended and she becomes angry. While thinking about how to help Aunt Chang with money, he accidentally looks at her boobs. Deng Lingsu asks where he's looking at, so he calmly apologizes and says that he's spacing out. After a few hours, they finish studying and Deng Lingsu praises I-Chen on how good he is when explaining things. Just then, a call comes through for Deng Lingsu. She tells him to leave because he's gonna change her clothes. Hearing that it's about karaoke, I-Chen seems to think about something and questions himself if Deng Lingsu goes out at that time in his past life. Inside of Rome Dynasty KTV, I-Chen together with Deng Lingsu greets her friends. Her friend then asks who I-Chen is, and she introduces him as his neighbor's son. Then, her friend whispers to her about the arranged marriage that they had, since she thought it was already called off. Deng Lingsu frustratingly says that it's her mom who asks I-Chen to be her tutor, and that her mom was the one who insisted for him to follow her. Her friend proceeds to whisper to Zhu Xiaming if he can do something about I-Chen. Zhu Xiaming mocks I-Chen about his face, and says that he'll just have to show him and I-Chen will instantly run away. Looking at the calm I-Chen, Deng Lingsu is having second thoughts, since he might have a problem recovering from it. Meanwhile, I-Chen thinks about Aunt Chang doing gambling, and he concludes that it's all about her debt. Just then, a fat man asks Zhu Xiaming if he's holding an expensive wine. Zhu Xiaming nonchalantly notices that the bottle is quite old, so he quotes the price around 50,000. Lackeys then notices that I-Chen doesn't show any reaction when hearing the bragging of Zhu Xiaming. The fat lackey then praises the expensive clothes of Zhu Xiaming. Just then, a drunk middle-aged man walks in and notices that he's in the wrong room. Zhu Xiaming notices the man as Uncle Zhu, and he also recognizes Zhu Xiaming in return. The friend of Deng Lingsu and the fat lackey commented on how drunk Uncle Zhu is, but Zhu Xiaming tells them to shut their mouths. Uncle Zhu then notices I-Chen sitting, and he greets him. He tells Zhu Xiaming to go away since he'll be greeting I-Chen. Uncle Zhu then tells Zhu Xiaming that he will pay for their room and have drinks with I-Chen. As both of them leave the room, Deng Lingsu and her friend talk about how I-Chen knows a big boss like Uncle Zhu. Zhu Xiaming walks in and tells everyone that Uncle Zhu was just drunk and he got the wrong person. Deng Lingsu and her friend go to the bathroom, while Zhu Xiaming stops I-Chen from trying to follow both girls. I-Chen tells him to move, but the fat lackey calls out his attitude. Just then, they hear a shout, and I-Chen recognizes that it's Deng Lingsu's voice. Outside of the room, Deng Lingsu and her friend are stopped by a group of gangsters. Deng Lingsu tells them to go away, but the leader introduces himself as the boss there and says that no one can leave. Deng Lingsu tries to make a call, but the boss easily grabs it away. He then orders his subordinates to get the girls to go with them and ties their hands without much struggle. The boss looks menacingly at Deng Lingsu and says that she looks delicate. Just then, a voice interrupts them by saying that they are shameless for going against a lady. I-Chen introduces himself as their great-grandfather. With his superior speed, he rushes to them and easily saves Deng Lingsu from their clutches. The boss then threatens them while one of his men calls for their subordinates to go there. Deng Lingsu expresses how worried she is for I-Chen, but he reassures him that nothing is going to happen to her. The villain then asks him if he wants to try more about fighting. I-Chen says that it doesn't matter how many people there are, they can't touch Deng Lingsu. Hearing this, Deng Lingsu seems to be touched. One of the enemies tries to approach I-Chen, but he easily grabs his hands and clenches it so hard that it turns violet instantly. Seeing this, the boss orders his men to rush and kill I-Chen. However, with one wave of his hand, I-Chen manages to knock everyone unconscious. One of the villains tries to ask who's I-Chen, but I-Chen rushes to him and lifts him by the throat. Meanwhile, Zhu Xiaming arrives at the scene and asks Deng Lingsu what happened there. The boss recognizes Zhu Xiaming and scolds him for the messes that I-Chen made. Zhu Xiaming then orders I-Chen to let go Brother Hai, but I-Chen tells him to observe what's happening. Zhu Xiaming then looks at the two scared girls, but Chairman Wang interrupts his thoughts. So, he decides to explain to Chairman Wang that I-Chen is from the countryside. Zhu Xiaming then tells him that he'll let I-Chen properly apologize. Zhu Xiaming doesn't expect I-Chen to be good at fighting, so he turns to him and tells him that there's some sort of misunderstanding. However, Brother Hai angrily threatens to either give him a proper explanation or he'll do something. He's about to continue, but he's cut short when I-Chen tightens his hold on his throat and slaps him. Yi-Chen then says that Brother Hai needs to give a proper explanation or he'll rip him open. Seeing this, Zhu Xiaming tries to de-escalate the situation, but Yi-Chen is not bothered. Just then, numerous lackeys appear with weapons in their hands. Zhu Xiaming tries to save himself by saying that he has no involvement in that matter anymore. He tries to leave, but Chairman Wang says that no one will leave the place. Dang Lingxiu suggested to Yi-Chen that she should just stay so that they could leave the place. Yi-Chen turns away and says that nothing will happen to her. At the same time, he threatens Brother Hai to kill him if they don't let them go. Manager Wang then is forced to agree to Yi-Chen's demand, as Zhu Xiaming immediately runs away. Dang Lingxiu hesitates to leave Yi-Chen behind, but he reassures her that he'll leave later. After they leave, Yi-Chen lets go Brother Hai's. He then asks how Yi-Chen would like to die. He then asks if their boss who is Koran who. Yi-Chen calls Kirin, and he asks Yi-Chen if he has any orders. He tells Kirin that Brother Hai, who is apparently under him, wants him dead. Yi-Chen turns the cell phone to Brother Hai, as Kirin scolds him that Yi-Chen isn't someone that he can provoke. He then tells them that he's gonna go to that place. This changes everything. Brother Hai is now somewhat cautious of Yi-Chen. However, he tells Yi-Chen to give him a good apology, and this immediately enrages Yi-Chen. After some time, Kirin arrives and asks what is happening, as he looks at numerous unconscious bodies. But before we continue, make sure to subscribe, smash that like button, and click the notification bell for more videos like this one. When Brother Hai and Chairman Wang see Kirin, they immediately rush to him and ask for him. Kirin asks Yi-Chen what both of them did. Yi-Chen answers in a roundabout way that someone is trying to taint his precious relative. As Manager Chen hears this, he instantly begs Kirin to save him. Before leaving, Yi-Chen threatens Kirin that he only has one night to punish the one who wants to taint his relative, or else he'll die. Outside of the KTV, Dang Lingxiu runs to Yi-Chen and anxiously asks if he's okay. Yi-Chen says that he is fine, and asks where the other classmates of hers are. Hearing this question, she thinks about a few minutes ago when Zhu Xiaming and her were arguing. Zhu Xiaming blames Yi-Chen and says that he deserves to die inside. Out of anger, she slaps him. Her other friend also encouraged her to go, but she decided to wait for Yi-Chen. But instead of telling all of this to Yi-Chen, she tells him that they left since they had things to do. At Dang Lingxiu's home, Aunt Jiang thanks Yi-Chen for taking Dang Lingxiu home safely. Uncle Dang also wants to show his appreciation by buying Yi-Chen food next time. Then, Yi-Chen bids his farewell to the family, while Dang Lingxiu silently says thank you in her head. At Rome Dynasty KTV, Kirin calls Yi-Chen to inform him about the punishment. He tells him that Brother Hai is dead, and that Manager Wang has lost one of his legs and arms. Yi-Chen then tells him to discipline his underlings next time. Kirin immediately complies with this. After ending the call, Kirin scolds Manager Wang again for being stupid by provoking Yi-Chen. Manager Wang says that he won't do it again. However, in his mind, he harbors a lot of resentment towards Yi-Chen, and he wants to take revenge. Meanwhile, Yi-Chen is thinking about how to earn a huge amount of money. He then calls someone to ask if there's any big shot who has an incurable disease. The person on the other side of the phone says that there's a big character in the mafia, who's badly injured and needs some help. While riding in their car, Liu Yuxi and Yuan Zhao notice Yi-Chen trying to take a taxi. They pull up next to him and mock him for being poor, that he needs to take a taxi. Liu Yuxi continues by saying that Yi-Chen can't possibly afford a day living in the worst villa around their place. Just then, Yi-Chen pulls out a golden keycard and tells them that he lives there. But Liu Yuxi says that the silver keycard she's holding is the real one, and Yi-Chen needs to be better at faking it. Meanwhile, Yuan Zhao sees the golden keycard and says that the keycard Yi-Chen is holding onto is the keycard to Villa No. 1. Although they're quite a bit shocked, they conclude that maybe the Chu family lent it to Yi-Chen. 2 days later, just as Yi-Chen is leaving, Ning Kui reminds him to stay safe. Seeing her, Yi-Chen frustratingly sighs and wonders when she'll go back to her own house. Then, Dr. Chen picks Yi-Chen to meet the patient he talked about 2 days ago. Just then, the vice leader of B mercenary team Zhao Qingdai says that she hopes for Yi-Chen to cooperate with them. Yi-Chen then asks Dr. Chen about the mercenaries, and he tells him that they're a growing power recently. Zhao Qingdai then tells Yi-Chen about a series of kidnappings, and they think that Yi-Chen is somewhat involved. She tries to apprehend Yi-Chen, but he easily catches her hand. She then says that they'll leave today, but they will come back at another time. Dr. Chen then says that he calls the head of the Chu family to vouch for Yi-Chen. Zhao Qingdai orders her subordinates to bring the laptop with the video. After Yi-Chen lets her go, he notices the strength of Yi-Chen and she decides to investigate him a little. As they watch the footage, they see a figure with the same features as Yi-Chen, holding a kid who was missing. Yi-Chen tells them he was at the Chu family's banquet during that time, 4 days ago. Dr. Chen also supports Yi-Chen's claims. Then Zhao Qingdai says that he should contact the Chu family on the list. Dr. Chen complies. After some investigation, they concluded that Yi-Chen was innocent. Then, Yi-Chen asks for the name of the person who provided the video, since he knows that person wants to frame him. He continues by saying that the person gave fake information on purpose, and Zhao Qingdai also thinks that Yi-Chen has a point. Just as she's about to tell him the name, it is interrupted by a report of the body of the 5th missing boy. Before Zhao Qingdai leaves, she gives Yi-Chen the information of the one who gave the footage. Later that night, Manager Wang is calling someone, and complains to them about how the investigators managed to find its fake quickly. After he ends the call, Yi-Chen appears outside of his office. He thanks Manager Wang for reminding him to end things once and for all. The next day, Dr. Chen and Yi-Chen meet up with the head of Jiangnan Underground, Jiao Lei. Dr. Chen then introduces Yi-Chen to Jiao Lei, the one he mentioned before. Just then, an old man wearing Taoist clothes ridicules Yi-Chen for having an expert title. Dr. Chen tries to defend Yi-Chen by saying how he saved the daughter of the Chu family. Yi-Chen then asks about the old man's identity, and he says that he's the 96th generation inheritor of Gui Gu medic, Du Ren. Yi-Chen says that Du Ren is bluffing. Du Ren then turns to Jiao Lei and says that one more acupuncture and his injury will be gone. Jiao Lei tells everyone to keep quiet. He then says that he can't deny Du Ren's skills. So, Yi-Chen proposes that Du Ren should stay for a few days for Jiao Lei to thank him. Hearing this greatly shocked Du Ren. Jiao Lei offers Du Ren to stay for a few days to enjoy the scenery of Jiangnan City. However, Du Ren nervously reasons that there's still a patient waiting for him. Jiao Lei keeps on insisting, and eventually Du Ren agrees. But he moves closer to the window and immediately jumps away to make his escape. Seeing that Du Ren is a liar, Jiao Lei thanks Yi-Chen. Then, Yi-Chen turns his back to Jiao Lei, ready to leave, since he refuses to believe him. Dr. Chen says that they should find someone else to treat. Jiao Lei tries to stop Yi-Chen, and he offers him 5 million to cure him. This piques Yi-Chen's interest. Yi-Chen then starts his examination. He speculates that the injury was from a dark energy martial artist. Jiao Lei praises Yi-Chen for being a genius because he's right, and that's why he can't recover after a long time. He then asks Yi-Chen why Du Ren's acupuncture eases the pain. Yi-Chen says that it's only a small gimmick, and this will rebound after a few days, eventually killing Jiao Lei. He becomes angry and orders one of the guards to capture Du Ren. Just then, Yi-Chen suddenly attacks Jiao Lei with a slap on the chest. He's about to ask why when he notices that the dark energy in him disappears. When he sees his skills, he concludes that Yi-Chen's ability is above his. Just then, a guard reports that Brother Hu is there to visit. Yi-Chen thought that it was Kirin. Then a big man entered the office, and it was indeed Kirin. Kirin first greets Jiao Lei. He also notices Yi-Chen, so he greets him. Jiao Lei asks if he knew Yi-Chen, and Kirin explains that they got into some trouble, but Yi-Chen didn't give him a hard time. Kirin is surprised to know that it's Yi-Chen who cured Jiao Lei's injury. Just then, Kirin grovels on the ground and expresses his gratitude for curing Jiao Lei. Then, Jiao Lei asks if Yi-Chen is a dark energy martial artist. He denies it but says that he's almost there. They're both shocked to hear this, and Jiao Lei thinks that Yi-Chen will eventually become a dark energy martial artist, or break through into a much higher realm. Jiao Lei then says that there's a request he wants Yi-Chen to fulfill. Yi-Chen asks if it's a request for him to kill the dark energy martial artist who harmed Jiao Lei. So, that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We have more exciting content coming soon, and you don't want to miss out.